Welcome to the show that looks at truth, fiction, and reality with a smirk. I'm Aaron Peterson.
I'm Amanda Sink.
And I'm Zach Parkerson.
And welcome to Smirk. Each week, one of our hosts introduces an original story, which we then use as a springboard for spirited discussion on whatever the moral or theme of that story was. This week, it's Amanda's turn, and she's juking around a little bit.
Juking? I'm dancing.
Is that a word?
I don't think it is. Just like rebuttals isn't a word.
Dance juke.
Give us a little teaser. What's your story this week?
You always ask me for hints as if I can give you a whole lot. I think
create an atmosphere.
People are really going to resonate with this story. It's a very reality-based story, and that's
like
not
Kardashians?
No. Back that train up.
That's
Get
what
back.
reality-based means.
Get back. It's
wrestling?
real world situation. That
like MTV.
Wrong.
Okay, well,
they had a whole show called Real World. How could he be wrong?
I mean, it's a reality show, and it's called Real World. It feels like it would resonate.
Yeah, except for the whole scripted part.
So really, you suck at teases is what I'm getting out of
I'm really bad at this.
Yeah, you keep asking her every time.
And I'm always terrible.
And then she keeps going I don't really have one. And then you just make fun of her for 2 minutes.
Yep. That's exactly what happens at the beginning of my story, Zach. Thank you.
Yeah. You know what, though? Smirk's a treat.
Yeah, I like it. I think this is fun.
It's like a
to
frosted
make fun
brownie.
of you for 2 minutes. Wait, what?
He said it's a treat. Like a frosted brownie.
Anyway, cream cheese frosted cinnamon rolls. I just wanted everybody to know that's the treat of choice.
Hey, that's a pretty good treat.
Aaron, weigh in real quick before we get to the story.
Rice Krispies.
Really?
That's my
very classic.
With sprinkles?
No,
or no sprinkles.
I don't need to jazz it up. Just give me a Rice Krispie treat.
I could imagine you curling up as a wee little lad watching Indiana Jones eating on a Rice Krispie treat.
With his hat on?
That would be great if we had the money for Rice Krispies. Instead, we just had a tray of butter.
You ate one Rice Krispie a day. That was your treat.
Basically.
Just like one little kernel.
Just the one little thing. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Except when I was that age, Zach, I probably would have ate the whole pan if I had it. Because I was a big kid. I was just like, nom, 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 nom.
I respect that.
A stick of butter.
Stick of butter.
That's right. I don't break it into tablespoons. All right, Amanda, we've made fun of you enough. Are you ready to tell your story?
I am. All right, let's do this. Let's do it. Not sexually.
No, it kind of sounded a little sexual.
Wow, that was very uncomfortable.
It's going to be a sexy story again, like the pillow fight one?
No. This is the least sexy story that I could possibly tell you guys.
Why the hell do we care now?
I'll be the judge of that.
I'll walk away. I don't even want to hear it anymore.
You tell any story right, it can be sexy.
Yeah, just say,
hey, Jim, good morning.
Oh.
That's not how the story goes.
Oh.
I mean, that is the opening line, but that's not how it's said.
Okay.
So we're going to do this over less sexual.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable right now. In fact, I was going to file a complaint when this is over.
I'm getting more relaxed.
Everything is sexual if at the end of it you say, if you know what I mean.
Hey, Jim, good morning. If you know what I mean.
See?
Yeah, he got lucky last night. It's tremendous.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Good for Jim.
Here we go. Hey, Jim, good morning. How's the family? Jim's boss, Lucy, asks him Monday morning. Oh, they're good. We're just trying to get some things taken care of before the big day. Jim's 5-year work anniversary is approaching, only 2 more days. He's got 2 kids and a soon-to-be wife, so he's hoping for a raise to take care of some of these wedding and spawn bills. His review will take place on his anniversary day, and he's been working hard the past couple of weeks to boost the appeal. He's been coming in every day on time, getting ahead of his work, and smiling at everyone. His coworkers aren't buying his act, they call it, as they gossip about his hit-or-miss work ethic for the other 50 weeks of the year. I can't believe Lucy buys this crap. He comes in late at least 2 days a week, he doesn't do his work, and we get stuck with it. And someone in his house is sick 2 or 3 times a month on average, so he's calling in. Jamie says to her colleague Jill about Jim. I know, it's hard that we're having to take on this extra work, but we don't have kids, so we don't get it, Jill responds. Yeah, we don't get the excuses all right, Jamie quickly rebukes. The two have been tasked with taking on the work Jim doesn't get done because Lucy is always saying how overtasked he is, but they quickly got overwhelmed and frustrated. Making numerous complaints, they've seen no positive impact. Do you think it's just because he's nice, or what is it that lets him get away with everything? Jamie presses the matter further. Jill tries to stay out of it, so she shrugs her shoulders and with a frown looks back to her computer. I don't know. I guess it really doesn't matter what we think anyway. Because of Jim's anniversary, the office is having a party to celebrate the day before, so tomorrow. Everyone is set to bring in an item for the potluck. Jim is tasked with showing up on time. Hey Jim, are you on track for workload completion by Friday? Lucy asks. Jim smiles and says that of course he is, and he's excited to talk with her this week. Jim ends up chatting with some other colleagues that Monday and gets close to nothing done. Oh well, he says to himself, I'll catch up on it tomorrow. I've done so good the last couple weeks. He heads home to be with his family. It's Tuesday now, and Jim's anniversary party is today. Jamie and Jill each bring a dessert and set it on the counter space in the break room. It's a pretty casual morning, and everyone in the office seems to be having a good time and laughing, but there's no sign of Jim yet. It's almost 9. Is he not coming in today? Jill asks Jamie. Who knows at this point? I'm sure he'll be gifted a puppy for his tardiness, she responds. The two go back to their desks and continue working while the office mingles and chats. Jim finally walks in around 9:30 and the office cheers and blows their noisemakers like it's a New Year's party. Jim laughs and smiles, greeting each individual person, making special contact with Lucy. The office goes along with their celebrations and snacks on the food that day, treating it like a Friday. Lucy then approaches Jill and Jamie after lunch and asks if they wouldn't mind helping Jim get caught up. He's had a busy day and we really need to get these invoices sent out. Do you mind helping out? Jill responds quickly, sure, whatever you need. The intense side-eye from Jamie nearly scorches her. Are you kidding me? The two end up working late getting things caught up for the next day so they don't have to come in Friday. If everyone's work is caught up by the second Friday of each pay period, they get to take a personal day or work from home. The next day, Jim heads into Lucy's office, 8 a.m. sharp. The two sit down and begin discussing his future, how things are going, and his current salary. Jamie and Jill can overhear the laughter and chatter, but don't know what the conversation is. They decide to just keep their heads down, focus on their work, and even get ahead of what they can. Jim finishes around lunchtime, so he doesn't even get back to his desk until 1. He works diligently the next couple hours, but asks Lucy about leaving because his youngest got sick at school and daycare needs him to pick him up. He heads out, leaving a mess of work. Jamie and Jill just continue to work and catch up on his activities. The next day, Lucy acknowledges Jamie and Jill at their department, stating that Jim is homesick again today with his kid and won't be in. She also says she has an announcement. The vacant supervisor position is being filled by Jim and will start next week, so they will be short-staffed in their area until they can find a replacement. Lucy walks back into her office, and Jamie and Jill's jaws drop to the floor. This can't be real. How could she possibly think he deserves to get more money and more responsibility? We already do half of his work regularly, Jamie says to Jill. Yeah, and now we'll never get out of here for Fridays. The two continue working hard to get the job done, but they still end up having to come in Friday. Jamie looks over at Jill. I guess this is no different than before. At least we don't have expectations for someone else to do work and then not get it done the last minute. Jamie and Jill both look down, bothered, and continue working. Jim's still at home with his sick kid. Conclusion. Done.
I was waiting for the dark, sharp turn.
Nope. I told you this is a very reality-based story.
So Jim got promoted?
Jim got promoted.
Hey, you know what? Good for Jim.
Jim didn't do anything Monday or Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
Wednesday, he basically had his meeting and then went home sick. Thursday was still homesick with this kid. And then Friday was homesick with this kid.
Seems like you assume the worst in Jim.
Yeah, sounds like Jim has a good attitude, though. Great attitude.
He does
He's
have a
making
great...
his boss laugh every day.
Like the joy.
He's sucking right up, but he's having these people take on the tasks.
So.
No, in my story, they're not having sex. He's happy with his wife, or soon-to-be wife, and has 2 kids with her.
You can't convince me of that.
Well,
She's like, I don't care if you wrote this story. You can't convince me.
it's really like not supposed to be a sexual interaction between the two, just how much of a suck-up he is.
Mm-hmm.
It happens in
With
the
his
corporate
mouth.
world. It happens all the time.
So what do you think the moral of my story is? I've given you some of the details, so hopefully you guys nail it.
I think the theme is people are going to kill Jim.
Brown nosing always pays off, unfortunately.
It's not always how much work you put into it. It's who you know.
Yeah, it is who you know.
That is true, but that's not the moral.
Okay, what's the moral?
The world is an unfair place, but you have to learn to make adjustments with each unexpected turn.
That's fair.
Like punching Jim.
I mean, that is an adjustment.
We're all kind of jumping on Jim's the hate wagon there a little bit, but pump the brakes because Jim's kind of playing the system correctly.
I didn't hate on Jim. I said he was banging his boss. If that's what he's got to do to get his kids fed, that's what he's got to do.
So what do you guys think about...
Something's wrong with
What do you think about Jim and how Jamie and Jill should react at this point?
Jamie and Jill are toxic. Okay, they're kind of coming off as toxic personalities because the solution isn't to badmouth Jim in every corner. The solution is to do the same work you're doing, be the hard worker you are, but also be a positive work environment. Be infectious. Be the person people want to be around. I hate to say it, but that is the fact of corporate environment.
So,
Gotta kill him with kindness, you're saying?
Yeah, to a degree, sure.
do you feel like there's something more they could do, since they've already brought it up numerous times to their boss, that this is an issue, we're getting stuck with his work, you're giving us his work because you feel like he's overworked, but now we're taking on his job. He gets to like hang out and mingle and things like that. And while he has a great personality, these women feel in the story, they feel like they're basically getting the raw end of it, which is part of the world.
And it's true. They are getting the raw end of it, and it's not right by any way, shape, or form.
What do you think they should do to fix it?
They need to confront Jim directly. Jim's walking all over him. You can't let that happen.
Like in the parking lot with baseball bats, or how would you recommend
like
it?
When you go to the lunchroom and he's over there eating his Chipotle burrito bowl, Jamie and Jill got to go over there, sit down. They're nice big burritos. Make a statement. And
with the burrito, I got a burrito. I think it says all I need to say.
Yeah,
so my work is wrapped up in this burrito.
I'm here with the actual food. Because people like this do exist in every work environment, especially the using your kids as an excuse thing. And I can distinctly remember talking to a coworker inside of a McDonald's one time. We were just complaining, or he was worried about this woman we worked with because she had always left to deal with her kids and stuff. And I just remember losing it and just like yelling in the McDonald's, "The kid is always fine."
Well, what about the one time it's not fine? Like some people have sick kids. I mean, you do have to take, and there's definitely, they shouldn't be penalized.
At a certain point, you burn your bridge, though.
What's that?
At a certain point, you burn that bridge. You use up that excuse if you're doing it. If your kid is sick twice a week, every week.
Unless they have a medical condition, of course.
Well, even then my sympathy runs dry, but
I mean, as a boss, wouldn't that run slim for you?
No.
No?
Oh, what a hero.
You have to look at it from the I value family very much. So I think if you're a boss, if you're an employer, that sort of thing, you hire people because they do good work, but you also respect that they have families. Now, if they're faking that their kid is sick, if the kid's not actually sick, hey, that's something completely different. But if their child is ill in some way, shape, or form, or they have an illness, or they have a condition of any kind, that's far more important than a job. I'm sorry. Now, and if the government has made things available to them so that they can take time away to go handle that. And they should be allowed to do that without penalty. And I believe that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, does it affect other people? Absolutely. Unfortunately, I feel like many times in today's workplace world, actually just the world at large, people tend to think just about the people. They think about their particular predicament. To me, I look at it as, do I got to do a little bit more work? Sure. But that person is dealing with something horrible at home. They're constantly, you think you're stressed. They go home and have to deal with this horribly ill child all the time. I think people need to be more sympathetic to those things, and I don't believe they are because they're too busy being like Jill and saying, screw
Jamie.
Sorry, Jamie.
Yep. Jill's the nice one.
I think they're being too much like Jamie and just going ahead and with the ill will toward old Jim. I'm not saying that this is the case with Jim. His kids
I'm telling you it's not.
Now, what Zach was talking about where he said that the kid's always fine, that's different because that's somebody who's taken advantage of a system. And I don't have much sympathy for that. But I do have sympathy for someone that has a child at home that has illnesses or has a condition or anything like that. Because I do feel like there are parents that are doing the very best they can and they have great work ethics. They just don't have 48 hours in every day to handle all this stuff. They have to handle that child. I don't know. And as long as they're within the confines of whatever your decree is at your corporate environment, your work environment, I don't think you can penalize him for it.
Well, I mean, the boss doesn't seem to even care about trying to at least have him make up his work. And what I tried to simply get across in the story is that Jim may have sick kids at home. We don't really know, but he takes advantage of the system often because he comes in tardy.
That's different.
Multiple times a week, he takes advantage of him not actually doing work and putting it off to other people, knowing that it's going to get put off to them. And then him being away from work at, on a moment's notice or calls in to work because of his kids, whether that's legitimate or not, they don't actually know, but they're seeing all these other things and they're seeing basically the consequences of him not coming into work and possibly using that as an excuse. And they're I believe, incorrectly handling the situation because they're just becoming gossipy, but they also don't have a boss who's doing anything when they bring the situation to it. So it's just an all-around unhealthy work environment. And at that point, what can you do if that's a job you need? Because they may have families. I didn't really write that in for Jamie or Jill, but they may need their jobs to take care of their kids. And that would have been a cooler story now that I'm thinking about it. If they had kids and then they didn't call into work.
No, I mean,
I think you're giving away that this might be fiction.
Well, to be fair, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if they have families or they don't have families. I mean, it's still going to affect them. They still need the job for whatever the reasons are. So I don't know if that necessarily. See, people that take advantage of the system, I don't have much sympathy for. People that have real life hardships, I do have sympathy for. And I do think that if they're gaming the system, no, they shouldn't be rewarded for it. But does it happen all the time? All the time.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like a monster. I like to think that some people tell the truth. Not everyone, but Jim and the coworker I was referencing earlier, they seem to show no remorse for what they're doing to their coworkers, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So have you guys worked with somebody who you felt has taken advantage of the system or flexibility or anything like that?
Yeah.
So how did you handle it? When you felt like you had the pressure of somebody else's workload on you, and you knew that they were taking advantage of the system.
I think Zach's is going to be a much more interesting answer
I
than
know.
mine would
I'm
be.
so excited.
I don't know if it'll be quite as interesting as you think. I mean, I mocked the person relentlessly when I saw them about how their kid was definitely not sick, and I mean, I just flat out refused to do that extra work. Like in my situation that I'm thinking of here as the example is nobody came down on me for not doing the extra work because everybody knew that the person was full of crap, Well, so maybe Jamie and Jill just got to stop doing it. So eventually that work's not going to get piled up, and Lucy can't just keep coming to Jamie and Jill saying you have to do this because it is Jim's job. So eventually the buck's going to have to pass back to Jim.
Well, he's been promoted, remember? So now they're short-staffed from his position anyway. So she alleviated that by giving him more money and a promotion.
Right. Well, now she'll have to learn, right? Because she's going to have to start covering for him.
Mm-hmm. To a degree.
That's true.
Or they'll have to find somebody to fill his spot to help. Maybe they'll get a better person that way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't handle it that way. I've come from a corporate world, so you kind of have to roll with the dice, and it doesn't always work out the way you want. I hate to say this, but there are many, many people that get promoted that haven't done much to earn it, other than they're fun at a party. Mm-hmm. They're great to hang out with. They make great jokes on the fly, but they don't really offer anything, and you can't get much out of them, and they're not good leaders, and yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of factors.
A lot of
that
talk.
Go into it. Now,
talk the talk.
I would also say there's just as many people that have been promoted that worked their asses off, that earned every second of it, and have deserved what they've received. Mm-hmm. So it will come down to at some point in your career where that happens. Somebody gets promoted, and they absolutely should not be promoted. They don't deserve it, and they've done nothing but be a gym where they come in late and they just treat work like nothing. But they're infectious, so people love to be around them, so they get shot right up the ladder. It'll drive you crazy, but at some point you just have to swallow your pride and go, do I need this job or not? And if you don't, find another one. Mm-hmm. If you do need the job, you're going to have to suck it up and deal with it. There's not much you can do. Being bitter is just going to make you miserable. Why should you be miserable because Jim's shooting up the ladder? You can't change that.
That's true. That's a good point.
You can.
But you can't, because what happens is people always think, and this is a fact, people always think when they're being catty and bitter and everything else, nobody else notices. This is just between me, who was it, Jack and Jill and whatever.
Jamie and Jill.
Jamie and Jill.
You use a lot of J names. It's very confusing.
Yeah,
that is my fault. Sorry.
Every J name. So, people think, oh, it's just going to stay with us. That never, ever just stays with them. People always notice when you're being those people, those personalities are being catty and they're trolling, basically. I mean, they're just basically work trolls. And what happens is eventually people do catch on to that and they won't go anywhere because even though they're justified in their opinion
and working hard
and working hard, even though they're doing those things, they're toxic. People see them as toxic personalities because they're always negative to a degree. So you have to keep a positive attitude. You have to keep a positive atmosphere, even when it sucks. Go home and complain about it all you want. I absolutely understand that. But we've all been in a position where you have to suck it up if you want your job. And unfortunately, that's the way of the world. Is it right? No, but it's a fact.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. At a job that I used to have, I worked with a girl who everyone down to HR knew that she was finding a loophole in the system because she would reserve her call-in days because you had days so many days in a row that you were allowed to call in, and she would use it at the end of the year for the holidays. And she worked it so well that she got paid for the holidays and also was off for like all of them. And I don't.
Good for her. It's the system.
She found the loopholes and she did it for 3 years before she ended up getting fired.
Whoa, because of that?
Yes.
So it was against the company mandate or something?
She was, it was against policy, but she found a loophole to like get through it for some time.
Yeah. I take back what I might say.
I was surprised you said good for her.
I thought she was working the system according to the rules, not bypassing the rules.
They left the loophole open until they realized that she's been gaming them for so many years and screwing everybody else. I just did what I had to do in working. I was always the person who had to fill her position and then still do mine. And I've never been the person who's like, I'm so overwhelmed. Don't give me that work. My weakness is to never say no. Like Zach says, just stop doing the work. I'm like, sure, whatever you need me to do, I'll help you.
I don't think either one of those is the right answer.
It's not a good answer. But how do you really actually say no to your boss when your boss asks you? It seems to have worked out for
both of us. We're both employed.
It's true. There you go. It's true.
There you go. No,
but
I've never had a job longer than 2 years, but I've always been employed.
We're in different boats, but similar boats, I guess. But it's a hard situation because you can't lash out like you're saying. You can't lash out against those people. There's no solution for you if you've gone to management and said, this is something that I feel like is really it's affecting the work environment and it's affecting everybody else who's here every day doing their jobs.
Yeah, you absolutely should. You should
say
bring
something.
it up to your boss. Yeah. You should, and take it up through HR if you need to, or whatever you need to do. Sure.
It's so interesting. I have the mentality of you never need to get your boss involved.
I don't think that's the right answer at all.
I don't think so either.
No, because then that introduces a whole other set of problems. And now everybody's looking at everybody closer.
Yeah, there's truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
The boss is coming in, and they're probably going to change some things that don't need to be changed, or punish everybody for one person's mistake, or some nonsense like that.
Bad leader, though.
Yeah, most are.
Wow. So
I'm not saying that of my current job, obviously.
Zach operates with a snitches get stitches attitude.
Not every leader is bad, but it is. I feel like it's more trouble than it's worth to try to bring management or your boss into it instead of just dealing with it on a peer-to-peer level.
Well, I think. Well, there's some truth to that because management is constricted in what they can do.
Right? Yeah.
A lot of times employees don't understand.
That's a good point. Yeah, I've been there. I often ignored most of those restrictions, and then I didn't have a job later. But
you're really selling yourself here.
This is a great LinkedIn profile.
We're gonna put this on your Indeed.
I have a lot of management on my resume, but there's a reason I haven't had it in a while. I say no now because I know it doesn't work out.
It's a tough job.
No, it is. It's tough to be the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. It can be, but you always have to operate with the idea that you're just enforcing the rules. So you're not being a bad guy. You're just doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And always follow the rules.
Rules are dumb, though, don't you think, Aaron?
No, not at work. No, I don't. I think
It alleviates chaos.
I would never violate any company policy. In case you're listening, company, I would never violate any
either.
company
Wink.
Yeah, I think we all know you would at this point.
You've disclosed that. Yeah. So what do you think is the hardest part about, for you specifically, for working with other people? The hardest part, basically about having a job. What's the hardest?
Like in general?
Yeah.
Waking up, going to work?
Yeah.
I meant about the job, like actually being in your workplace environment. Is it the catty, toxic people that like you're not even a part of, but you feel that negative energy? Or is it just the stress of work? Or is it the brown nosers who just keep rising and you're like, you're not even doing work. You're just like smiling and shaking hands and saying that you're this great worker, but it's not reflecting. Like what's the hardest part for you in working to get over?
Fake assery.
I like that. I like that we make up words here.
Yes, fake assery. That's probably the number one thing. It falls under corporate politics. It falls under corporate politics, where people are not genuine and they tend to BS a lot. And I don't like fake assery, and that's what that falls under, because there's a lot of people in any company where they are just not real, not legitimate, and they act like they're fans of yours, but they're not really. They talk about you behind your back. Just all that politics stuff. They had one conversation with you, and their opinion is made up of you, of your entirety, of your soul, from one conversation or one action or one thing, the one time you didn't do the thing you do every day, that kind of thing. That kind of stuff just drives me crazy because it's rampant. I think there's so much ego involved especially when you're in a corporate environment. It's just there's no need for that. There's no need for fake assery, Amanda.
I'm with you. Zach,
What's
the hardest part of you staying at a job for 2 years in a row consecutively?
Well, I only did that once.
Okay.
Every other job was 1 year.
That's good to know. What's the struggle for you getting over that 1 year hump?
You know what? Honestly, it was all those 1 year jobs were all, as Aaron said, they were all corporate jobs. So you had to deal with that environment, and there's like that weird conflict with your coworkers because you've got to get like the right numbers, or you've got to meet your sales quota or whatever. Luckily, being in the service industry now, you're kind of granted a boon in that the customers are the bad guy because they all suck. So all the fakeness is going outwards from the employees to the customers. So you guys are all kind of like in this struggle together. So
a battle against the customers.
It really feels like you survive every day.
That's depressing.
So I mean, I guess right now the hardest part of the job is just having to deal with customers because they all
create a job for you.
Yeah, well, they all try to sit down 10 minutes to close or something.
That happens.
I can't say that I haven't done that before, so I apologize.
I remember your story.
Oh my gosh, it was not. That was not the same thing.
Or you berate your waiter because your order got messed up, even though it's probably not his fault.
Isn't it their job to check it though before they bring it out?
I'm with Zach 100%. Even if they made a mistake, people make mistakes. It drives me crazy when people get irate.
I don't think you should be mad at them, but I think you should still be able to say something.
I just don't think you should be mad at them because things happen.
Well, we'll get on this on a different episode.
Right.
Somebody must berate their waiter when they get the
No,
wrong.
I'm very nice to them, but
That's what I heard.
That's what they all say.
I will, like, if it has onions on it, I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I had ordered this without onions, but there's onions."
I'll look at you and say, "No, then."
Yeah, and you know what happens? Sometimes you didn't.
Right.
No, I always say no onions.
People always think they say always say, but they don't. Nobody always
does.
It's
part of
anything.
My language. It's one of like the 5 sentences I say regularly.
Always does anything.
Also, like, what kind of monster doesn't like onions?
This one, me. Hi, hello.
So, what about you in the corporate environment? What don't you like? I'm sorry, work environment.
Work environment, yeah. I would say that the hardest part is because I can deal with like I said, I can deal with people like taking on the work of others. I don't ever make a complaint to my boss like this is too much for me to handle or this is too much work. My problem comes with people who pretend like they're doing their job and they're so efficient and they're like, look at me.
They're so efficient at pretending.
I'm so good at my job, or like I'm doing so much around here. And you're like, but like I'm doing your job and I don't make a single sentence about it. I just do it because it's part of my job, even though it's not part of my job.
I'm seeing a connection, Zach.
No. Well, this is, like I said, I gave you that connection before. So that was part of my inspiration was something from that.
Gotcha.
But I mean, that's a hard part because a leader is supposed to kind of navigate that and deviate from allowing colleagues to take advantage of each other. And it's hard.
To a certain extent. There's so much personality involved with trying to manage people that there's some things you can do, many things you can't do.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are just going to be people, and you don't even know that there's a problem until someone actually comes in and tells you there's a problem. And just because they say there's a problem doesn't mean that you can illustrate there's a problem. So there's a lot of factors involved to that.
I agree.
That's why you don't get your boss involved. What's the point?
That's
my gosh.
Parking lot. No.
But they can't ever.
That's not what I'm saying,
Aaron. They can't ever monitor the issue if they don't know that it's there. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I don't envy being in management at all. I'm just saying, you're all people. You should be able to talk to each other like people.
I agree with that.
Hopefully you can just resolve it, even if it has to get a little more confrontational than not. I mean, sometimes, honestly, all you need to do is say to a person, hey, look, man, I've been having to do so-and-so extra every day. Like, it's something that you're supposed to do, but like I've been doing it, but it's starting to it's getting rough, man. And then you might just go, you know what? That's my bad. I have been skimping on that. I
totally agree with him on this.
Yeah.
You should, just like snitches get stitches, you should try to approach the person before you go to your boss, I would think. Because then if you go straight to your boss, you kind of come across, that starts an antagonizing relationship.
Yeah, and it not to jump straight to snitches to stitches, but it does kind of make you look like a tattletale. Like you're that kid in second grade who got the extra gold star.
There are a lot of companies, though, that will tell you that, like, basically part of that, if you have an issue, like to bring it straight to management because they don't want to see the confrontation between employees.
True, but it really depends on what's the situation.
Managed.
I mean, I'm doing your work feels like, hey, Jim, I'm doing your work. I'm not doing it anymore. And that's honestly how I would handle it. Hey, I'm doing your work for you. I'm not going to be doing that tomorrow, so you're going to want to take care of that, just so you know.
In the story, it's hard in the position that Jamie and Jill are in because their boss is the one who's asking them to do it. Like, Jim knows that it's going to go on these people anyway because somebody keeps doing his work magically. Like, who's this fairy or genie who's granting all these wishes?
Well, he doesn't care. He got promoted.
That's true. But
now I get to make more people do my work.
Yeah, now I look good when I make people do my work.
But Lucy, the boss, she doesn't seem to empathize with understanding that she may be putting too much on her other employees.
Hey,
it's a normal problem, I think, that everyone can resonate with on some level.
Except for, unless you're Jim, then you're like, I don't understand why this is a problem.
What are people talking about?
Because there are people listening that are Jim. If you're listening
true.
and going, I don't recognize this, you're probably Jim.
So what do you guys think? Do you think this is a true story or do you think it's fiction?
Even if the story is fiction, the story is truth. Do you know what I mean?
What he said.
I agree.
Well,
the story is fiction, but there's
truth in this story. Yeah,
it's fiction.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, what's the name of the story?
Unfair.
All right.
The moral was that the world is unfair, but you just got to make your own adjustments to the circumstances.
All right, suck it up, buttercups. Let's get this
Pretty much, yeah. Suck it up.
Well, or stand up for yourself.
Well, then suck it up. Stand up for yourself, do everything, follow company protocol, and then suck it up.
Well, maybe not the company protocol part. Yeah, that's optional.
I don't think it is. All right. Well, as our story goes, or as our show goes even, we will occasionally pick listener stories to read and discuss on Smirk. If you'd like the chance to have yours read, email to mystory@smirkpodcast.com. If you don't want to do that, if you don't feel like you want to contribute in that way, but you're a fan of the show, you can hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review and leave your interpretation of a story you heard on that review or something.
Or a connection that
Or
you had to the
connection.
story, something
Yeah.
like that.
There you go. Give us a story in the review section. That works. That helps the show, too.
A story about our stories.
There you go.
I love to hear about myself.
It's a story within a story. It's Inception. All right. Join the conversation by joining our Facebook group or follow us on Twitter at Smirk Podcast, and be sure to use the show's hashtag Smirk. Don't miss an episode. Be sure to subscribe to Smirk on your podcast app of choice and check out our website at smirkpodcast.com. I think we've all bonded here over our lack of wanting to do real work.
We've learned a lot about each other in our work ethics, I think, too.
Wouldn't you guys both just like to watch movies and get paid for that?
Heck yeah.
I did that when I worked at Blockbuster. It was
You're
great.
Randall.
I was. It was great. People come in, you get to talk movies all day, you get to watch movies, you get
That's
to put
beautiful.
them away, you got screeners.
Yeah.
It was a great job.
That does sound beautiful.
I miss
Game,
Blockbuster.
I'm going to just put GameStop on blast. It didn't work that way there. All right. You think it would? It didn't.
Oh, okay. Boy, that was probably one of the jobs
That
you had
was
less
what I
than a
was
year.
going to say.
Yeah.
All right, Amanda.
I was in
take us-
management, though.
Yeah, there you go. Take
Manager,
us out,
baby.
take us
Never
out
seems to
before
work
you
out.
get sued.
As you write your own life story, always remember to tell it with a smirk.
Zach's just blasting every job he's ever had. And then there's one time at Taco Bell.
I just went in there quick for a chalupa.
I didn't even work there, and I'm like, that Jim's a dick.